for FAU's second game of Day 2 at the FAU Kickoff Classic. The Owls won their first game, defeating NC State 2-0 behind a complete game shutout from Kylie Hansen. Now the Owls taking on Boston University, and they're in the Owls' second game of the evening. Amanda Wilson in the circle for FAU, and she has already retired one batter on a first pitch grounder to second.
Up now we see Boston University's Mariah Conley, a senior, with a count of 0-2. This is Boston University's very first game of the 2017 campaign, so welcome to South Florida. Has some travel snafus early on as Wilson goes outside for ball one. Had some travel snafus early on that prevented them from playing earlier today.
You know, one of the things you don't have to deal with living in South Florida?
Travel snafus?
Well, you have to deal with travel snafus depending on where you're going, but you don't have to deal with flash winter storms, which is what...
That's true, as Amanda Wilson gets Conley swinging for the second out of the inning here. That will bring number 31, Alexa Ponce, to the plate, a sophomore. Right-hitting DP. Wilson sets and delivers. Ponce sends this right to Emily Lockton. An uncharacteristic error for Emily Lockton, who seemed like a pretty routine ground ball. Bobbled it on her shoelaces a few times and allows Ponce to reach safely. So with Boston's first runner of the evening, that will bring up number 2, Alex Heinen, a sophomore that we will see behind the plate. Thinks about Wilson's first pitch, lets it go. However, the umpire lets her know it's still a strike one. A nice off-speed pitch from Amanda Wilson. Certainly, Kylie gets a lot of accolades and a lot of attention for how powerful she is on the mound. But I think one thing that's worth pointing out as Wilson delivers and goes outside, umpire says a little too far outside. One thing, sorry, my train just stopped. One thing I think is worth mentioning is FAU's ERA as a squad. Mm-hmm. And Amanda Wilson is certainly something to celebrate in her own right, especially being a lefty. And so kudos to Amanda. She had a fantastic season last year in 2016 as well. We look for just as many wonderful things for her in 2017 as Heinen fights in something off of her knee. And that will bring the count to 1-2.
Well, as you said, Kylie Hansen, and deservedly so, receives a great share of the attention when talking about this FAU pitching staff, as this one grounded back up the middle to Wilson. And she makes a nice snag in the circle, fires over to Witt at first, and that will do it for the Terriers in the top of the first. So for Boston in the top of the first, no runs, no hits, 1 error and 1 left on. Boston nothing, FAU coming to bat.
As Lockton, Palmer, and Ricky prepare to face Overly for the first time this evening, let's take a quick look at Boston and their defense. Like we mentioned, Overly on the mound. Interestingly enough, we've got lefty versus lefty, which is fairly uncommon in college softball. So Overly on the mound, Heinen behind the plate, Martinez at first, Connolly at second, Morrow at short, and Solinger at third. And then if we look at the outfield left to right, Levine, Shanda and Wong. Emily Lockton will lead things off here in the bottom of the first. As we discussed in the last game, Lockton really more used in a power hitter role, the third and the fourth slot in the past. However, she is fast. She has a great on-base percentage, and she's a natural leader. So that's certainly the same qualities that you want in your leadoff hitter as well. So she will step in for her first time against Overly. Overly goes inside for ball one. Emily Lockton finished up to the 2016 season with a .342 average. Started in all 60 games for the Owls. Hits this off the handle of the bat. Brings the count to 1-1. Lockton with a pretty decent eye at the plate. Very rarely chases after something that she can't get a piece or all of. Had a towering fly ball into center last game, more high than it was long, and was visibly frustrated by that. Lays off the off speed by Overly. Umpire said close enough, strike two. Lockton looking to jumpstart things here for her team in the second of the two-game nightcap. Another off-speed from Overly. Lockton waits back, almost plays it perfectly. Gets it off the end of the bat, over Overly's glove, sends it into center. Shane is there to bring it in, but nonetheless, Lockton finds herself as the first Owls base runner of the game. Always a plus when that's your leadoff.
Yes.
Amazing how that works.
I don't know if it's quite as what's the word, indicative of future success as walks will haunt, but you know.
It's so early to be making fun, Justin. So early. Maddie Palmer will step in. Locked in the very first pitch, she is gone. Interestingly enough, it is Conley, the second baseman, who covers second on the steal. Conley doesn't appear to be as fast as Lockton, so it was kind of like who was chasing who as they were getting to second base. Lockton slides in head first and is
I was just
safe.
about to say, since we're not streaming this game, video streaming this game like we normally do, you folks at home can't see it. As some heads-up base running again from Emily Lockton.
What happened was she took a huge lead at third, and we will see it again. So let me start over. So Emily Lockton is at second base. I think maybe looking for a little redemption, some frustration from the last game. She's at second base. Boston shortstop Morrow is where she is. She's playing her position. Heinen throws behind her intentionally into center field as Shanda is running in. Emily, as soon as she sees it, was going regardless of whether she was throwing to second or center. Breaks to third, slides into third safely, and then some miscommunication and really just some misdirection on Boston's part allows Emily to advance again. So we have only seen one Owl batter so far. She did not hit a home run, although she has scored.
Yes, and there's a discussion going on now between the umpiring crew as to whether or not the ball was in the circle when Emily left third, in which case she would be out. That conversation prompted by the Boston head coach, and she does not appear to like the answer she got, so that will be a 1-0 lead for FAU here in the bottom of the first on a single and 3 stolen bases.
And again, Maddie Palmer, the second batter of the inning, has only seen one pitch. So certainly some heads-up base running from Emily Lockton, some strong leadership that you like to see right out of the gate, and not a senior. So, you know, we look for continued bright things from Emily Lockton in the future. And Maddie Palmer will finally get to step back in as she's had a little break. Count is 1-1. Squares to bunt. Pulls back in time. Brings the count to 2-1. like Justin and I have alluded to, a great fan base here tonight. The kickoff season tournament's always a good time. Palmer shows bunt again, pulls back for ball 3. It bears mentioning that Justin and I have had our very first FAU concession stand dinner of the season, which if you have not been to an FAU home softball game, I don't know why that is, but if for some reason you have not, Palmer once again shows bunt, this time unsuccessful in laying it down, and it's just simply too fast. Martinez, Overly, Solinger, and Heinen all kind of converged on it. I believe it was Solinger that was able to grab it and flip it over to Martinez at first, but the simple fact is Palmer is just too quick. If you don't get a good handle on that from the get-go, you are not going to catch her. So that will bring up right fielder Delaney Ricky. Certainly no slouch in her speed there. So some dangerous owls coming up to bat. Anyway, back to the concession stand there. If you have never been to the Florida Atlantic Softball Park, I highly recommend it. It's a great family atmosphere, and I would say that the concession stand food here rivals pretty much any. And I've eaten at a lot of ballparks in my day. Palmer is going on Ricky's bunt. They will say Ricky did not make it to first in time, but certainly it was a sacrifice, did her job. Moved Palmer over to second. They did flip it over to Palmer to see if they could get her when she was rounding second, but no avail. So Ricky is sat down on the sacrifice bunt. That will bring up Tatum Buckley. Buckley, today's starting second baseman. We talked about how we will probably see her in that role. Excuse me, I misspoke. She's playing third. We will probably see her in various roles as Tatum does.
You're not wrong. You're just early. She'll end up.
She'll be there.
She'll be there eventually.
It's fine. She'll be there. So with Palmer on second, Buckley takes this offering from Overly inside for ball 2.
To your point, Meredith, about Tatum's utility, to pardon the pun, as a defender, seen her play pretty much every position in the infield, with the exception of catcher, and she takes a 2-ball strike to make the count 2-1. I mean, when you can have someone play all 4 infield positions and step into the circle where she was 6-0 last year, that's a nice tool to have in the arsenal.
Absolutely. And certainly, no slouch at the plate. Finished the season with a 255 average. Just kind of like everyone else on this squad, has some speed. So just kind of an all-around, in the true sense of the word, a utility player. Buckley will step back in. Palmer at second. Buckley fights this off at the hands. Way too high, though. Brings the count to 3-2.
Just one of those players that, every championship team seems to have, regardless of the sport. Just one of those players who seems to get it done when she needs to. Full count pitch catches the outside corner, and Buckley is retired on strikes for the first out of the inning.
That will bring up this evening's catcher in both the first game and this second. I sense maybe as the season goes on, she might start to share time just a smidge with kind of some incoming freshmen, just to allow them to get their feet wet, as she did with Mickey Bell and some folks like that in the past.
Sure.
First strike swinging, strike 1, but certainly for tonight, Alex Miller is the catcher on record, and rightfully so. She did a fantastic job last year. When sharing time, she caught a fantastic first game. She really runs a very organized field, and I think that says a lot of a catcher at this level, especially if you are a catcher that can catch both Kylie Hansen and Amanda Wilson. Those two ladies definitely powerful in their own right, but they're only as good as the person that catches the ball. So kudos to Alex Miller.
Random question as Miller fouls this one back into the screen.
I might have a random answer.
During your softball playing days, Meredith,
Uh-huh.
what position did you play?
Do you not know?
I have an idea.
Okay, let's hear Justin's idea.
I believe you were a catcher.
So
Is that
I was not a catcher, and because I have terrible knees.
I thought that's why you caught. That's why you had terrible knees is because you caught.
No. I pitched and I played outfield and I DP'd. When I was younger, that's what I wanted to play and that's what I started out. And then it got to the point where my knees hurt too bad. As Miller sends this down third base line, will be. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
It will be wrangled in as a foul ball. As Miller will return. But I will say that, and I tell the kids, the Little League kids too, the best part about being the catcher is you're the only person on the field that can make eye contact with everyone else at the same time. You run the show. It's a very important position, and, my hat's off to those people that play it well. And Palmer tries to stretch her luck, stealing third. Heinen says, not today, with a quick flip throw to third. That will retire the side. When we return, it'll be Martinez, Moreau, Shanda. If anyone reaches safely, Solinger to help jumpstart things for Boston in the top of the second. After one complete, FAU 1, Boston University 0.
Amanda Wilson back in the circle for the Owls as we kick off the top of the second inning. Was started to make this point in the top of the first inning, but didn't quite get the chance to complete it. As the leadoff batter for the Terriers, Gabby Martinez, lines that one to third, I believe is what happened there, and she's quickly retired for the first out. As I was saying, and I better make it quick or else Amanda Wilson will make quick work of the Terriers again, and I won't get the chance to make the point this inning either, as Emily Morrow takes ball one low and in the dirt. As we mentioned, Kylie Hansen, rightfully so, earns a fair amount of the fanfare in terms of this FAU pitching staff. One thing that I don't think a lot of people know or appreciate is that by almost any objective measure, Amanda Wilson will end her FAU career as one of the 10 best pitchers to ever set foot on campus, which is incredible, both in terms of the quality of pitchers that have come through FAU, as Morrow grounds to Lockton over at short for the second out, and the relative low-key way that Amanda gets it done, which is and that's also just part of her personality. She's not going to go out there and draw a bunch of attention to herself. She just kind of, once again, much like we mentioned Tatum in the bottom of the first, she just kind of goes out there and gets it done. So a first pitch grounder to, as it turns out, Tatum Buckley, and Amanda Wilson gets out of the inning on 5 pitches. So
Not bad work.
no, that's good work if you can get it. And that will be it for the Terriers in the top of the second. A quick 1-2-3 inning. FAU will be looking to add to its 1-0 lead in the bottom of the second. Damn, I really did have to hurry up and get through that. Yeah. Oh, okay. So you can see. Okay, that is. You know what? We're due for a redesign. So I don't know if we can do that because they're not a CBS school, but I'll. It's probably way down at the bottom, but yeah. Boston highlight. Okay. It should be Alex. It's Alex. Alex is back at the plate because Maddie got thrown out. No. You just go back to the previous inning, and you got to give Maddie a caught stealing to end the inning. Maddie got caught stealing to end the inning, so Alex is still at the plate.
So Alex Miller with the luxury of extra pitches, as Maddie Palmer was caught stealing in the middle of Alex Miller's at bat, will start fresh with a 0-0 count. First off-speed offering from Overly, high for ball 1.
As Meredith mentioned, Alex split time with Mickey Bell behind the plate last year, and as she gets hit trying to swing on this one, rolls off into foul territory behind the plate. So that's a very painful strike for Alex Miller, and the count is 1-1. But Alex Miller, together with Mickey Bell, one of the dwindling number of college catchers who call their own pitches, is the point I was trying to make as she swings through for strike 2.
And I could praise that all day.
There are many. Well, go ahead, Meredith.
There are things that I believe strongly in the sport of softball, and I, again, in that same vein as if you trust someone enough to be behind the plate and run the show, trust them enough to know enough about their pitchers and enough about the game to call the pitches themselves. I love it. Couldn't agree more. And I think Coach Joyce, certainly with her background as a pitcher, as Miller sends it straight back into the net, appreciates that and understands kind of the inner workings of the battery. So kudos to her.
There are many reasons to love this FAU softball coaching staff, not the least of which, for me personally, is the fact that they allow their catchers to call their own pitches.
Absolutely.
This one chopped down the line to first. First baseman Martinez will glove it and make the run over to tag first, and Miller is retired, 3 unassisted. Miller, as I was getting ready to say, not only one of the few catchers to call their own pitches, but also very good at it, as her and Bell helped lead that FAU pitching staff to finish 3rd in the nation in collective ERA as a group last year.
Absolutely. Mia Olson, tonight's DP, will step in. Overly's first pitch outside for ball 1. And you'll see occasionally Kylie or Amanda will shake off a pitch, but it's not very often. And you can tell they have a great relationship and a good camaraderie and kind of an understanding of what one expects from the other. Overly really just kind of staying away from Olson at this point, kind of respecting the power that the Owls lineup bring.
Well, to your point about Alex and the way she handles Kylie and Amanda, you spend enough time around this group and you will find out that those 3 are pretty much inseparable when they're off the field. And I have no doubt, once again, in my opinion, that translates to a certain level of trust when it comes time to lace up the cleats. As Olsen looks at a strike. Go ahead.
And I was going to say an inside-out pitch into Olsen's hands. Really nothing she could do about that. She decided early that she was going to swing. And at that point, too fast, too high, and too inside for her to really make any feasible contact. Brings the count to 2-2. Overly then goes right back over the middle of the plate, and Olsen's unable to put anything into play. So Overly finds herself making some quick work with both Miller and Olsen.
And we are, make no mistake, we are FAU commentators, but I will certainly praise Overlay's handling of that at-bat with Olsen. She really set her up and kept her off balance by going outside early in the at-bat, as Meredith mentioned.
Absolutely. So Witt will step in, tonight's first baseman. First step from Overly, it's really kind of that same high outside pitch. So that maybe is how Overly feels comfortable. Kind of start him off there, work around with him, and then go after him later in the count. Witt finished up last season with a .235 batting average. Second pitch from Overly, called strike. So Witt will step back into the box with a 1-1 count. Witt saw some occasional action last year, wasn't an everyday starter. Off speed from Overly, Witt plays it perfectly, waits on it long enough to take it into right field. Wong is there to come up with it, makes the quick throw to Martinez at first, but Witt is just too quick. So Witt with a fantastic at-bat and a single to show for it will bring left fielder Peck up to the plate. Peck, a junior, transferred a few times and has found herself here at FAU. Witt a modest lead at first. Heinen hopped right up from behind the plate, I think, thinking that Witt was going to take off, and she did not. So Heinen sets back in. Overly delivers. Peck shows bunt. Pulls up very quickly for strike two. So it kind of seems as FAU graduates fast slapping lefties, they are replaced by other fast slapping lefties. It certainly lends themselves well to Coach Joyce's offensive plan as Peck looks at that one for strike three. So Overly will retire the side in the shape of 4 Owls. When we return, Boston will send Solinger, Levine, and Wong to the plate to try to even up this 1-run lead. At the end of 2 complete, it's FAU 1, Boston 0. I will say second only to the fact that it's softball season, concession stand dinner. There's already dogs at the ballpark, Justin. There's already dogs at the ballpark.
Well,
you don't even have to wait for bark in the park. Their little cute faces are already here.
Yes, and the FAU softball stadium is popular for families, and one of the reasons it's so popular with families is that they can bring their pets, their little 4-legged friends, to the ballpark.
I already had to love on some adorable bulldog when I was downstairs.
But I must correct you. There's another reason in front of the fact that there are dogs at the ballpark already, and that's you and our home listeners get to spend time with me.
Oh,
You're welcome.
I am so sorry, home listeners.
She
Amanda Wilson takes the mound and faces Solinger. Already finds herself ahead in the count. 0-2. Wilson goes outside. Buckley dives to her right towards the line. Kind of an odd bounce there. Unable to do really anything with it. So eats it and calls it a day. As Boston gets only their second base runner of the evening on the shape of Solinger. That will bring up left fielder Levine. Levine, a lefty, ended last season with a 111 batting average, played in 38 games, only started 2, so certainly it could be a situation a lot like some of the FAU players where was put in for some pitch hit situations or maybe some pinch running situations, but didn't get a regular start. But what we've seen here tonight, perhaps the tide is turning for her. So she sends a foul ball down the line, brings the count to 0-2. Boston has a runner on first and no outs here in the top of the third. Amanda Wilson goes outside. Alex Miller does a fantastic job of attempting
That
to
was a very
frame
good
it.
frame job by Alex.
However, that ball was not a strike, and the umpire recognized that and called it as such. So Levine will step back in, hits this to Emily Lockton at short. A great short flip to Legere, who was there covering. Legere recognized that Levine was too quick, did not attempt the double play, and instead tossed it back into Amanda Wilson.
And once again, second base has come up unloosed from its moorings, and we'll
Somebody
see.
better go jump on it.
I think Samantha Legere is up and willing to the task. We'll see. We'll see. Do we get a jump? There it is. Yes, she's. Yep, she's making sure it's really on there.
So Levine's at first, and we'll swing around to the top of the order. Right fielder Emma Wong will step in. Wong with a ground out to second in her last at bat.
One thing you notice, we mentioned it a lot last year, but when these Owl pitchers, all of them, are in a really good rhythm, they will not take very long between pitches. They get the ball back from the catcher, take a step or two behind the rubber, and then it's right back into their motion. They waste very little movement in the circle when they are feeling it. This one grounded back up to Wilson in the circle. She turns and throws to Lockton covering at second, and the Owls once again get the lead runner on the force out. So scored a fielder's choice for Wong.
Fantastic heads-up play by Amanda Wilson. Certainly could see Wong running to first, but had the field awareness and knew that if she could get that lead runner and Levine at second, that's the way to go. Made a quick spin. Of course, Lockton was there and was able to retire her. That brings up Conley. Conley struck out swinging in her last at bat. Takes a hack at this. It wasn't off speed from Wilson. Wong took off to second, but by the time Miller was able to catch it and do something with it, since it was an off speed, Wong was in safely. So Boston has their first runner on second of the evening, looking for something to do with it as Conley steps back in. Outside pitch that gets a piece right to Legere at second with a quick throw over to Witt. So although they got to second, they did not get past. After 2.5, the score remains FAU 1, Boston 0.
And we head to the bottom of the third inning. FAU leading 1-0. And it will be second baseman and second base securer Samantha Legere to lead off the inning for FAU.
Legere finishing last season with a 500 average, although she didn't see a lot of plate time. She did have 2 at-bats and was able to get a hit. So, you know what? That gives you a 500 average to end the season.
Much like you mentioned earlier with Delaney Rickey, saw most of her time as a freshman in the pinch running role, but now with the graduation of Melissa Martinez at second, has the chance to become more of an everyday contributor to the Owls.
Absolutely, and also, when Carnesia Thompson left, that moved around some other pieces. So it'll be interesting to see how Coach Joyce and the rest of the coaching staff, as Legere looks at strike 2, how they kind of find the people to fit those pieces. Lucky for them, from where we sit, it looks like they have several viable candidates.
Oh, sure, yeah. There are no bad options when it comes to who to play in terms of this FAU lineup, as Legere is able to nudge that one just out of the reach of the catcher and first baseman in foul territory to stay alive.
Overly, once again, with that off-speed pitch, and every Owl that has faced it as of yet has really dealt with it beautifully. They've stayed back on their back foot. They've waited to transfer their weight, and if anything, if they've already started to swing, they've slowed down their swing and just gotten a piece of it to see if they can work with it. Right back to the fastball. Legere sends that straight back to the net.
The Terriers making the trip to South Florida for the second year in a row. They also made the journey down to Boca Raton last season. And once again, coming from Boston, as Legere fouls this one up over the screen and over the press box out into the concourse behind us. With the weather issues that they obviously had to deal with in getting here, why wouldn't you come to South Florida?
Obviously.
To start your softball season.
In fact, we had conversations here in the press box when we fill out our scorebooks. You put the date, the team. There's a line that always says weather. As Overly retires Legere with a strikeout swinging. So there's a box that always says weather, and it's interesting what people put. So when I was in college, the goal was to always think of the most flowery descriptions for the weather. Balmy,
Ooh,
balmy.
I
know, right?
I like that.
But it was interesting because in the box tonight, we all agreed that the weather line should just say Florida.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
that would be enough. That was self-sufficient.
It would perfectly capture what the weather is here.
Exactly. So with 1 out, nobody on, Emily Lockton will step in. Her first pitch from Overly, high for ball 1. Lockton with a kind of ridiculous chain of events in her last at bat, reached safely, and then on the very next pitch, stole second, and then Delay stole third. And then she was at third, and she was like, I'm just going to go on in. And
I'll just go ahead and take it from here.
I got it handled. And Stolholm swings at a high pitch from Overly for strike 2. Shows bunt, pulls back. Outside corner, ball 1.
As we've mentioned, Emily was the cleanup hitter for most of last year, but now, at least to start the season, is in the leadoff role. It'll be interesting to see if how the rest of the lineup behind her adjusts to her in that leadoff spot. Certainly wouldn't be surprised to see her drop a little further down in the order as the season goes on, depending on, as I said, what the lineup behind her does. But at least for the time being, she's the one who Coach Joyce has chosen to initiate the offense at the plate. She takes this one up and in, and the count is now full to the junior from Lake Worth, Florida.
Absolutely. I mean, she finished last season with an on-base percentage of 471. So, when you have someone that is getting on base safely almost half the time, that's the quality you want in a leadoff hitter. This is high and foul into the stands. Once again, as Justin pointed out last game, it's an interesting combination of people ducking, scurrying out of the way, trying to catch it. And that was high. Like, you had some time to either move, catch, something. But most of the folks were just kind of ducked and covered and prayed it didn't hit their head anyway. So Lockton will step back in. She shows bunt early, way inside, pulls back, so earns her free pass to first.
I think most of the fans in that area of the bleachers chose the scurry option.
Yeah.
And Emily's aboard with a 1-out walk. As Meredith mentioned, she single-handedly caused some damage to the Terrier defense last time she found herself in this position, and
she is the only run on
the
board.
She literally manufactured her own run
in the first at-bat of the first inning.
Yes.
Yep.
Indeed.
Absolutely. So kind of, I guess, a quick look while the Terriers have a little quick meet on the mound. Best part about being in Florida, like we said, the weather. So FAU will host 3 tournaments in a row this weekend, and then the weekend of the 17th through the 19th. Next weekend they have the Strikeout Cancer Tournament, and then the weekend after that, the 24th, 25th, 26th, they have the Florida Atlantic Tournament, where they will bring in UConn, Arkansas, Florida A&M, my home state of Kentucky, and Memphis. So all should be good games. Locked in with a pretty decent lead at first, and really some great softball. So if you're in the area and have a free Saturday, come on down.
Indeed.
Like we said, next weekend, if you happen to be here on campus, you can catch softball and then walk across the street through the parking lot and catch some baseball.
And as Lockton once again takes off for second, this throw is in time.
There's going to be some conversation, because certainly the original call was out. From our vantage point, Morrow dropped the ball.
Yes.
Assistant Coach Witt was pretty fired up as he came down third baseline. Whatever the home plate umpire said to him, he has accepted and walked away, and that seems to be fine. So we will continue things, and Palmer will step back in with a count of 1-0. So with Lockton caught stealing, the bases are empty. Palmer looking to change that. Attempts to drop a bunt is not successful. Strike 2.
The count it was 1-0 count, and then Palmer takes looks at a strike is what I'm trying to say. 1-1. Looks at another strike. Count is now 1-2.
I apologize, ladies and gentlemen. Now we're caught up. Sometimes when it gets late, I have trouble counting to 3. Here we go. Maddie Palmer will step back in. Overly delivers, and once again we see an Owls ball player do a really good job of fighting off that off speed. So Palmer gets a little piece of it, stays alive, gets to look at another one.
Indeed, and also the FAU women's basketball team will be back on campus next weekend. The Owls women's team will host La Tech and Southern Miss. Palmer hacks another one back into the screen.
As we see kind of the opposite of what we talked about with Amanda Wilson and Kylie Hansen being very fast workers on the mound, Overly is kind of the opposite in the fact that she's very methodical. Every time she gets the ball back from Heinen behind the plate, Maddie Palmer is going to look at that. Home plate umpire will check with her colleague down the third baseline. He said no, Maddie did not cross the plane of the plate with her bat, so she gets another chance with the count at 2-2. Overly, every time she gets the ball back, she walks to the back of the circle. She picks up a handful of dirt. She throws it down. She gets her sign, and then she goes through the motions. So certainly the opposite of FAU's pitcher. This one, inside, Palmer decides not to do anything with it, and it is a called strike 3. So Overly, with a 1-2-3 inning of her own, will shut things down. When we return, it'll be Ponce, Heinen, and Martinez looking to jumpstart things for Boston here in the top of the fourth.
And it will be the DP, Alexa Ponce, to lead off the fifth inning here for, the fourth inning for the Terriers.
Alexa reached safely in her first at bat in the first inning. A little off speed from Amanda Wilson, off speed of her own. Outside for ball one.
Well, between the fact that Amanda Wilson has not had a whole lot of difficulty, at least to this point, in dealing with the Terrier batters, and the fact that Overly is so deliberate, as you mentioned in the last half inning, the Owls have not been on the field defensively for an awful long time tonight. As this third pitch is grounded to Lockton at short, she fires over to first in plenty of time for out number one.
We'll bring up catcher Alex Heinen in her last at bat, grounded right back up the middle to Amanda, who basically fielded it on her shoestrings and threw it over to first to secure the out. Again, takes the first pitch from Amanda right to Emily Lockton, fields it cleanly, is able to complete the throw to Witt for out number two. So 2 pitches, 2 swings, 2 outs.
Once again, that's a sign of the efficiency that this FAU pitching staff likes to work with. That's Amanda Wilson's 5th pitch of the inning, goes for a strike to first baseman Gabby Martinez. A nasty little changeup that catches the inside corner for strike 2. And we've pointed out the differences between Hansen and Wilson, but one thing they do have in common is that they rarely start off behind hitters. As a third ground out to Lockton, a third throw over to Witt for the third out of the inning. So 3 straight 6-3 putouts for the Owls in the top of the fourth. At the halfway point, FAU leads 1-0. So we will have a new pitcher in the circle for the Terriers. It is McKenna Akers. She will take over for Overly, who at this point stands to take what would be a really tough luck loss.
Yeah, absolutely. If it wasn't for Emily Lockton's first at bat and subsequent base running brilliance, that was it. You know, it's a 0-0 ball game at this point.
This one, Ricky grounded it to short. Morrow's throw pulled Martinez off of first, but Martinez was able to make the play, was able to make the catch and bring her glove around to tag Ricky in time. So it's a rather unconventional 6-3 put out, but still just as effective.
That will bring Tatum Buckley to the plate. Buckley struck out swinging in her last at bat. Again, though, that was against Overly. Let's see how she does against Akers. Akers first offering low and inside, although Buckley thought it looked good, gave it a swing. Did not make contact for strike one. No attempt there by Buckley. That pitch pretty much over the middle of the plate for strike two. So very quickly, Tatum finds herself in the hole. Boston's defense pretty much playing straight away. That one low for ball one. Boston has someone warming up in the bullpen, although we'll talk about it as the season goes on. At this point in the game, you don't know if it's someone warming up or if it's someone just getting their work in for the day. So we'll keep you up to date. It looks like it could be number 23 who on the roster, Callie McGain. So we'll let you know if she looks like she's doing more than just getting her wrist flips in. A beautiful off-speed pitch by Akers in her own right will sit down Buckley. So Akers comes in, handles things beautifully, and that will bring up catcher Alex Miller. Miller out in her last at bat. Third base unassisted, fielded it cleanly and stepped on the bag.
Alex takes that one off the outside corner for ball one.
Like we've talked about Alex last year, splitting time with Mickey Bell. Finished the season with a 274 average. Got a lot of game experience, certainly under Mickey Bell, working with this particular coaching staff, and has really kind of seamlessly come into her own this season. I don't expect anything lost from her in the 2017 campaign. High off-speed offering from Akers.
And the Conference USA head coaches obviously share your opinion of Alex, as she was voted to the preseason all-conference team as the catcher.
I'm like that, Justin.
Huh?
I'm like that. We all agree.
I may be broadcasting the rest of the game from the other end of the press box, as there may not be enough room for myself, Meredith, and Meredith's overly inflated opinion of herself in the press box all at the same time. It'll be a tight squeeze.
Oh, my goodness.
But I'll do what I can do. I'll see what I can do.
Miller sends this ball foul over the stands into kind of the common area. Does not send this foul. Lifts it high into shallow center. Shanda is there waiting on it. So the Terriers I'll get it. The Terriers retire the side in order. After 4 complete, the score remains FAU 1, Boston 0. Amanda Wilson will start to take her place here in the top of the 5th, looking to get her Owls their 2nd win of the evening.
Emily Morrow will lead off the frame for the Terriers. She singled to right field in her previous at bat. This one singled to right field for Morrow. Excuse me, I was giving her a hit I should have given to Lauren Witt. So my apologies for that.
Wrong team, Justin, wrong team.
She grounded out to short in her first at bat.
Regardless,
obviously,
fantastic hit into right field.
Obviously, it was just a premonition
from Morrow, and she stands up safely at first. That will bring up center fielder Shanda, rips it down the third base line. Peck is there to bring it in, but way in foul territory.
And then Amanda sails a throw over the head of Emily Lockton, but Lauren Witt, obviously upset that I didn't give her full credit for her hit to the right earlier in the game, backs up the play. Shanda squares to bunt, and it goes foul. So now no balls and 2 strikes to the junior center fielder. This one grounded back to Wilson in the circle. She'll turn and fire to Lockton covering at second. And once again, 2 things happen. The Owls get the lead runner at second, and the second base comes off of its moorings, and we will be treated to
there she is.
we will be treated to another Samantha Legere jumping exhibition.
As you look out onto the field, if you have not seen either Samantha Legere or Emily Lockton is a good 6 inches taller
at least
than Samantha Legere, and it's just funny that between the two of them, it's tiny little Samantha Legere that's like feverishly trying to jump up and down, and when she jumps up and down, she's almost the same height as Emily Lockton.
Almost, not quite, but almost.
So Shanda will, with Shanda at first, Solinger will step in. Solinger, part of the ground out to Emily Lockton in the 3rd inning.
So grounded to Lockton at short. She flips to Legere. Legere turns and fires to Witt at first, and that's a tailor-made 6-4-3 double play to end the top of the 5th. So, as we stretch here in Boca Raton, FAU still hanging on to a 1-0 lead over Boston.
Fresh off the 5th inning stretch here, in between the Top and the bottom of the fifth. Now that we're done singing and stretching.
Well, it was a rousing rendition of "Take Me Out to the Ball Game" offered by the fans here at FAU Softball Stadium. One of the many reasons this is such a fantastic place to catch a game of softball.
Other than the concession stand food and the fact that it's dog friendly. Obviously. Mia Olson with a towering hit into right field. Unfortunately for her Owls, Emma Wong was camped underneath it the entire time. So Olson is quickly retired. That brings up Lauren Witt. Witt reached safely in her last at bat with a single in the second.
Was that to right field?
It was to right field, Justin.
Okay. Well, that's the one I.
Oh, I was like, yes, I see. Yes, that was the hit that you tried to give to Boston. I gotcha. Lauren Witt goes right side as well. This time to second baseman Conley with a quick, easy flip over to Martinez to retire Lit. Wait. Wow. I'll try it, you guys. To retire Witt. So very quickly, both Olson and Witt are retired. That brings up Peck. Peck with only a strikeout to her name in this second game. And like we said, other than Emily Lockton's first at bat, the Owls have really nothing offensively to show right now. So with the 1-run cushion, they desperately need some insurance runs.
The Owls were very good last year at scoring with 2 outs, and hoping Amanda Peck can get a late rally started here. This one outside. Counts even a ball and a strike. Once again, to Meredith's point that it's only Friday. Traditionally, Friday is the first day of college softball season, as this one up and in for ball 2. But the Owls were able to start their season on Thursday, splitting a doubleheader with North Florida. So the Owls will play Bethune-Cookman in the final game of Saturday action here, as this one grounded off of Akers to the second baseman Connolly, who tries to flip it over to first, but once it ricocheted off of Akers, they're pretty much there with any chance of getting Peck at first.
So Samantha Legere will step in. Legere with a strikeout in her last at bat, hoping to make something happen for her team here in the bottom of the fifth. Like we said before, not a lot of at bats last year for Legere, as she bounces this right up the middle to Akers, who handled it smoothly. So FAU once again retired very quickly. 1, 2, 3, 4. When we return, Boston will send Levine, Wong, and Connolly to the plate to see if they can chip away at this 1-run Owl lead. Score remains FAU 1, Boston 0. All right, so we will see some substitutions here as we get later into the game. Our very first one that we see is we were expecting Levine up at the plate, but instead we are going to see Olivia Francomano, a freshman lefty. We'll see what she has to do. First offering from Wilson outside for a ball. She's going to set back in. Wilson gets her sign and delivers. Francomano with a check swing. Not checked enough, though, as it breaks the plane of the plate for strike one.
This one just off of the off the corner of the plate. Ball 2, 2-1. 2-1 to the pinch hitter for the Terriers as they try and jumpstart a rally here in the top of the 6th inning. This one fouled off and rolls just in front of the plate. 2 balls and 2 strikes.
And at this point, Francomano, like we said, this is Boston's first game of the season. She's a true freshman, maybe a little jittery, trying to make a name for herself. That ball from Wilson was nowhere near the strike zone, and she swung. Again, Wilson used that to her advantage, threw another one in that exact same spot, and got her looking. So now we will return to the top of the Boston lineup. Still see Emma Wong, so we'll keep you updated with any changes, but still Boston going back with their leadoff hitter.
Stop us if you've heard this one. A grounder to Lockton. And she throws over to first in time to get Emma Wong. Let's see. That is Emily's 6th assist of the game,
Nice.
if my math is correct.
That will bring up Boston's Mariah Connolly. Kind of a swinging bunt there. Miller hops up from behind the plate but wasn't getting her in time. Conley just too fast. So Boston with a glimmer of hope here in the top of the 6th with DP Ponce up. Ponce is singled and grounded out to, you guessed it, Emily Lockton. First pitch from Wilson, strike one.
Ponce grounds this one and it somehow finds the glove of Lauren Witt. Witt is able to
That's called self-defense, folks.
scurry over to first for the putout, and FAU once again gets out of the inning, retires the Terriers, and what FAU hopes will be its last chance to add some insurance to a 1-0 lead coming here in the bottom of the 6th inning.
It's always nice when later on in the game your leadoff truly is able to start an inning again. So here we are in the bottom of the 6th. And Emily Lockton will do that for her Owls. Emily with the only run in tonight's second game. Also reached safely on a bunt, but was then caught stealing at second. Takes the first pitch from Akers outside for strike one. Shows bunt. Akers charges, but there is just no way. And interestingly enough, Emily Lockton is one of those people that you kind of think as kind of brute power, just muscling the ball into the outfield. And then she drops a bunt. You're caught off guard. Heinen wasn't expecting it. Akers certainly was not expecting it. And Emily's able to show off her speed with a bunt for a hit. So that will bring up Maddie Palmer. Palmer reached base safely in the first, but then struck out in the third, looking to move Emily along here. Squares bunt, pulls back. Heinen hopped up from behind the plate. Emily with a modest lead, but don't be surprised if she takes off at any moment.
This pitch in for a strike. Count is even 1-1. As I mentioned earlier, Palmer emerged later on in the season last year to eventually win Conference USA Freshman of the Year. This one off the outside corner, ball 2. Heinen up from behind the plate, pump fakes it first, but Lockton not going anywhere. Is back in safely.
Palmer ended 2016 with a .432 average. Heinen jumps up from behind the plate. Emily Lockton had a big lead. Heinen throws behind Emily Lockton, which at this point, Emily's burnt you 3 times, and you can see Heinen is apologizing to her infielders. That was me. Throws behind Lockton at first. Lockton steals second. Once again, Madison Palmer steps in with Emily Lockton in scoring position, which is how Emily Lockton scored last time.
Yes, indeed. This one hacked foul. As we mentioned, the Owls, Wilson has looked fairly impressive through 6 innings here, but you don't want to have to force her to hold up that 1-0 lead again if at all possible. You'd like to give her a little extra insurance.
And let's be honest, scoring 1 run isn't going to win you a lot of games.
No.
I mean, yes, it will win you more than some with Kylie and Amanda on the mound. However, you never want to make it a habit to just rely on one, no matter how comfortable you feel. And yes, it's 1 run, and it seems like Boston offensively has not really been in this game. I don't think they've had a runner. They have not had a runner on third.
Yeah.
So, it feels like they're not in it, but certainly 1 run's 1 run.
2 swings of the bat, and this game takes a completely different turn as Delaney Rickey hits that one in foul territory along the left field fence. But Levine with a nice running grab for out number 2.
We'll bring up Tatum Buckley. Buckley with 2 strikeouts, although this will be her first time seeing Akers. So let's see what she can do. Akers off speed outside for strike 1. Emily Lockton still at second with a fairly moderate lead. Boston defense straight away.
Lockton has to sort of almost comically jump out of the way of that grounder to shortstop, but Morrow is still able to make the play and fire over to first in time, and that will do it. So the Owls 3 outs away from sweeping day 2 here at the FAU Kickoff Classic, leading 1-0.
Boston catcher Alex Heinen will lead things off here for the Terriers in the top of the 7th. Takes
Go ahead.
takes Wilson's very first offering off of the railing in left center. To tell you how close it was, Boston had at least 4 teammates out onto the field wanting to celebrate with their teammate. Luckily for Amanda Wilson, it was a long single. So I think the Owls take a collective breath there. Kind of celebrating the fact that it was a long single and Amanda Wilson gets back to work. First pitch to Martinez, strike 1.
Well, we mentioned it in the last half inning that with a 1-0 lead, you're just two swings of the bat away from a completely different outcome in this game. As Martinez swings and misses for strike 2, and you certainly don't want that to happen. Now, at the risk of jinxing something,
So don't jinx it, Justin.
Amanda kept all but 2 hitters in the ballpark last season.
You heard it here, folks. At no point did that come out of my mouth. Oh, Justin. So Martinez will step back in, hoping to build on a little bit of momentum that Heinen brought to the plate. Wilson's offering outside for a ball.
Was that a catch me pitch?
No.
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 Okay. I'm still a little murky on the definition of a catch me pitch, so I'm just seeking clarification.
I'll let you know.
Thank you.
That inside to even up the count at 2-2.
Thank you. Once again.
I'll give you a nudge.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So with Heinen at first, Martinez steps in. Wilson goes outside. That might have been an attempted catch me pitch, Justin.
Okay, you know what? I may have to go break down game film and just kind of.
I'm gonna have to write up some parameters for you.
Yeah.
All right, I'll let you know what I can do. Martinez gets tired of looking at those outside pitches. Chops a piece of one. It's bobbled by Emily Lockton at short. Overthrows first. Now, while Martinez has both Lockton's and Witt's attention at first, Heinen has officially scored from third. So Emily Lockton bobbles the ball originally. It was a ground ball. Overthrows first. They bring it back. Witt's able to get it back in long enough as Heinen rounds third. They get Martinez in a bit of a rundown, a bit of a pickle, and they just kind of mismanage Heinen's distance home. They were keeping a good eye on her, but by the time they realized that they weren't going to be able to tag out Martinez, Heinen had already advanced home. So just like that, the score is tied here in the top of the 7th. Morrow hits a screamer down the third base line at Buckley, who's able to snag the line drive for the first out of the inning. So the Owls kind of getting some respite here in that caught line drive. First pitch, Shanda takes right back to Amanda Wilson. Wilson fields it with a quick flip over to Witt for the second out of the inning. So top of the 7th here, certainly not time for the Owls to fall asleep as Boston has taken advantage of Heinen's base running. Solinger will step in. Her first pitch from Amanda Wilson, a strike. Solinger has grounded out to both Amanda Wilson and Samantha Legere, has not reached base safely. Off-speed pitch from Wilson, hit into center. Palmer comes in. Boston runner rounding third, dives to the plate. Miller unable to dive back and tag her. So we've gone this entire game with Emily Lockton being the only offensive threat on the Owls side of the field. And then very quickly, the Terriers add 2 runs of their own. So the Owls find themselves with a runner on second in the form of Salinger. 2 runs scored, Martinez and Heinen, 2 outs. That brings Levine up to bat. Levine grounded out to Emily Lockton in the third, was pinch hit for in her last at bat. Let's see what she does here with now a runner in position. Levine squares early, pulls back, slaps it foul into the net. Rachel Levine, like we mentioned before, looks like she might have been an occasional offensive or perhaps a pinch runner last season. Played in 38 games, only started 2. Just getting some playing time here in the early season as Wilson's offering for strike 2. Amanda Wilson goes way outside, and certainly kind of a waste pitch for ball 1. Is a huge plane, lands on the runway next to us, and the press box shakes a little bit.
Obviously, Meredith's post-game riding, awaiting her in the Boca Raton Executive Airport.
I can't be kept waiting. I mean, I've got things to do. I've got things to do.
Oh, my goodness.
So Levine will step in with a full count. 1 on, 2 outs. Hits a screaming line drive past the glove of Witt at first base. Ricky comes up throwing. Is not able to get an attempting scoring Salinger, but they do get Levine, who's trying to stretch her single into a double. So, very quickly, just like that, the Terriers have scored 3 in the top of the 7th to bring the score Boston 3, FAU 1. When we return, the Owls will send Miller, Olsen, and Witt to the plate to try to even things up. Little early season soul searching here for the Owls as they try to put 2 runs back on the board, even things up here in the top of the 7th. Alex Miller steps in, shows bunt, pulls back. However, strike 1 is called. Miller unable to reach base safely, grounded out to first and flew out to center in her first 2 at-bats. We'll take this pitch from Akers low and outside to even the count at 1-1. Certainly, like we talked about, honestly, during that inning, unable to put consistent runs on the board, the Owls found themselves in a hole. Miller lifts this high, but unfortunately, right to the second baseman, Conley, who was there to bring it in for the first out of the bottom of the 7th. DP Mia Olsen will step in, trying to take things into her own hands with a strikeout and a fly ball to right field. Takes this first pitch low for ball 1. Mia finished last season with a 111 average. Gets a little piece of this for strike one. Saw some occasional at-bats, certainly given some time here and there, but not an everyday contributor. Probably looking to get some more of that this year. Played in 10 games, started in 8, steps back in. Anchor's pitch curves out for ball 2.
Mia also saw some, among those 10 games, saw some time in the circle, doing her part to help contribute to the depth of that FAU pitching staff. This one grounded to third. Solinger fires over to first in time, and the Owls are now down to their last out, and that will come to the plate in the person of Lauren Witt.
Lauren, a 235 average last season, 304 on base percentage. Owls needing her to reach safely here if they want to continue their chances. An inside out swing sends this opposite field, but foul. It's a long strike. So well done to both Overly and Akers here from the Boston staff, keeping the Owls batters on their toes. Olsen steps back in, lays off this outside pitch for a ball. Mia Olsen takes this pitch off of her hands. Foul for strike 2. So just a reminder. Oh, I'm sorry. Lauren Witt. You can talk, Justin. You can call me. You can call me out in front of people. It's fine.
Okay,
My feelings won't be hurt.
I'm trying to be nice. Folks, I hope if nothing else over the last, I don't know, 3+ hours, I hope you've gained an appreciation for what exactly I'm dealing with up here.
All right, I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. It's Lauren Witt. I was in my zone. Lauren Witt steps in with a 2-2 count, 2 out. The off speed that we've seen all day from both Overly and Akers. She throws it again. Witt unable to make contact, and very, very quickly, what appeared probably to the Owls to be kind of a sure win here in the second of the 2 games. Did not end up that way. So after 7 complete, Boston scores 3 runs on 4 hits and no errors. FAU scores 1 run on 5 hits and 3 errors. And honestly, your errors are what did you in. And that won't be the first time and it won't be the last time, but that's why it's early season. So certainly look for Coach Joyce's squad to learn from this, come out firing tomorrow. Again, your Owls take the field at 8:15. There's also a men's basketball game tomorrow night and more softball on Sunday. So come out and support your Owls in whatever sport they're playing. For Justin Johnson, this is Meredith Frazier, and we will see you on Sunday.